Well, the Craven Breeze Up Sale is just around the corner, and of course the poster boy from last year's sale was Vandeek, Middle Park winner and the highest rated 2-year-old trained in Britain. So we've come down here to Gainsborough Stables to catch up with his trainer Ed Crisford and find out how he's got on over the winter and what is no doubt going to be a really exciting campaign this year. So what group is this? Have we got a mixture?
So this is a mixture. This is a mixture. Older horses. There are some 2-year-olds in here as well. There's Vandeek there.
He looks like a bigger, stronger horse than last year. Has he changed a lot?
He's done extremely well. I mean, the neck on him and his hindquarters, and he's grown. He's really filled his frame. He's shown all the right signs of a horse from 2 to 3, you know, from what you want to see, really.
He's chilled, is he?
He's a very relaxed character. He's a really nice person. You know, when he came in from the Craven sales, he always had an amazing mind.
And what about on the big day when he goes to the racecourse? Does his behaviour change at all?
Well, during the pre-morning, I went to get the saddle, and he was walking around at the back at Deauville there, and the sun was shining, and we just had him in the sun, and he fell asleep. Literally, his eyes were closed as I was putting the saddle on. Before Group 1, I was thinking, is he okay? And then he went and won. And he was the same at Newmarket in the Middle Park.
It's quite unusual for sprinters as well to be like.
Unbelievable. But that's what I mean by he's got such a good mind on it. We're not going to start until the Sandy Lane, which is on the 25th of May. It's 4 weeks run into Ascot.
Yeah. And presumably you have those races in mind. It's a case of step by step, but what does an ideal campaign look like, all being well?
Well, I mean, yeah, the ideal campaign is, if all goes to plan, is Sandy Lane, Commonwealth Cup at Royal Ascot, and then you've got sort of July Cups, Morris de Geese, Haydock Sprint Cups. You've got champion sprints. So, I mean, there's a whole host of races.
Is it very much a case of what suits and what fits with the horse?
Shea Carlin's all for what suits with the horse, but I think if everything's going well, I mean, the sprint division is where we're going to stay at, and you know, obviously the horse will tell us how he's doing before each race. But I mean, to win at Royal Ascot would be just huge for us and the horse and Shea Carlin, and so that would be the first sort of big one, big target, and after that it will sort itself out.
Yeah. Did you ever harbour thoughts, you know, through his juvenile year of stepping him up in trip, or did you always think we'll stick to the sprint trips?
His racing style in his first 3 races, we always thought that he could step up, certainly to 7. But after the Middle Park, he showed that such raw, sort of natural speed. That was the first time we sort of thought, well, hang on.
He's barking up the wrong tree.
He looks like an out-and-out sprinter. And also his pedigree suggests that he is a sprinter. Although he doesn't necessarily look like one. I mean, he is a big, leggy, tall horse. I mean, he isn't the mould of your typical sprinter. Just walking through town with cool schools and kids and
fraught with danger,
tractors and lorries.
I'm amazed at how well they take to
it's
life
amazing,
in general. Yeah, it really is.
In the next sort of 10 days or so, he'll be ready to start coming into some fast work. You know, we've been able to take our time with him this year because of his race date.
A lot of people talk about horses kind of being 80%, 85, 90% for maybe what would be considered a prep run for, say, the Commonwealth Cup. Is that something that you'd envisage happening with him, or can be pretty straight for its first.
I think every horse is entitled to improve from their first run of the season, especially when they've had, he wouldn't have run since middle of September, middle to end of September. So, it's a long time off for any athlete. And so, yeah, it's just about, getting them, what you can do with them at home, getting them as fit as possible and having that race under your belt. And once that race is under your belt, off and away into the season you can go.
Does he take his racing well?
He takes it really well. And that's why last year we could run him every few weeks from Maiden to Richmond to the Pre-Morney. Mentally he takes it all in a stride, and physically, he actually was getting heavier and stronger with each race, which, we wouldn't have been able to have the program he did last year in his first 3 runs if he wasn't taking it that well.
For you guys, obviously we saw that flash of brilliance when he ran at Nottingham. He was well fancied going into Goodwood, but I guess people would have maybe questioned the ground. Was it the Pre-Morney when he came up against those good horses for you that you really thought, right, we've got a proper top-notcher here?
Yeah, he still had a lot to prove going into the Pre-Morney. The Richmond sort of fell apart due to the ground. A lot of horses came out of it that day. It ended up being quite a small field, and he won, and he won in great style, but a lot of people said, a lot of good horses came out. So, going into the Pre-Morney, we were pretty confident. The way he'd been training, the way he'd been winning his races, and the way you could see him improve from race to race, I thought we've got a really good horse in our hands, but now he's got to go and do it again in Group 1 company. And then he had a nice 6-week gap until the Middle Park. And that's when we really saw him change a bit and turn and grow stronger and bigger. And he, that day at Newmarket, the ground was very different.
Well, I was going to say, at that stage, circumstantially, he'd ended up on soft ground, and a lot of people were sort of questioning whether he needed that to be in the description. You'd always, I think, in the comments after races, thought that he'd be better on better ground. What were the thoughts going into Newmarket? Did you have any concerns?
Yeah, I mean, the way his action is, he's got that sort of lovely daisy cutter action, as it were, and we thought that he would definitely be good on quick ground, but it was just the way that he'd been winning his races on soft. We thought, well, is he just a horse that does like the soft ground? But we walked the track in the morning of the race, and he said, look, he can either go on it or he can't in the end of the day. And but that's when you saw his real good turn of foot that day. I mean, he travelled superbly well, almost travelled too well with James that day. But when the gap came, I mean, he just went through that gap like lightning, and he went up the hill very superbly strongly.
You can really see how much he's filled out.
Yeah, no, his neck, he's really filled out his neck and his shoulder and his hind quarters there. He's a taller horse now as well.
Yeah.
And, he was a bit of a shell, but you can just see how, he's filled his frame. And, he's basically turned from a boy to a man. You can really see him, how he's just strengthened up.
So talk us through the selection process and how you sort of came to have him in the end after the Craven Breeze Up Sale.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did a fantastically good time when he breezed. And he's by a very good stallion in Havana Grey, and Anthony Stroud loved the horse. And we went to go and see him with him. And Sheikh Khalid was very, very keen to get him. And, we knew he would be sort of on the pricey end. But luckily we had a Sheikh Khalid who was fully behind the horse, and he was very strong that day. Roger Kavanagh, did a fantastic job. You could tell the horse had a really great mind on him. He looked like a horse with a lot of improvement in him. We like to see their time and see how they breeze. But, he could tell he had a really, really proper stride length on him as well. So, when Anthony said, look, this is a horse that, that we've got to get, we had a look at him, and, we all loved him. And, being by Havana Grey, he was a horse that, really, Havana Grey is, what he's done on the track is fantastic. And this horse, what he's done on the track's been amazing, and hopefully this year can be another huge year.
So back to the Craven Breeze Up Sales, no doubt, to try and find another.
Well, that's it. couple of weeks we'll be back there, and it's always exciting this time of year. Trying to find that next Vandeek is the aim of the game, but to have him is amazing, and that's hopefully this year you can have a proper campaign.